Bethel Nation? It is
Cam.
and it's Chad. I thought I'd point to you like you point to me.
Yeah.
Get you off guard.
Yeah, I like that.
Whoa.
I like to be off.
Yeah.
Keep me on my toes.
Yeah, except we're sitting down, so
Well,
I don't
that's
know
true.
if it's the same.
It's not the same. but
It's
anyway.
not the same.
No.
Anyway, we're glad you're joining us today. We're working our way through the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5. A lot of deep stuff and
Yes,
a lot of things going on, and I guess we should get right to it. You think we should get right to it?
We're going to. So we've been working our way through chapter 5, which is the first chapter in the Sermon on the Mount. And we've been talking about some different things, but wow, we are getting into some tougher and tougher subjects.
This one's intense. Intense. It's like camping.
It's intense, yes.
Yeah.
Life can be lived intense. So some of these things are going to hit close to home for some of you, and I'll be honest, some of these things are going to hit close to home for us as well.
Yeah.
But Jesus keeps it real, so we'll just jump right into it.
Keeping it real.
All right, so Chad, I'm going to begin with verse 27 in chapter 5. You have heard that it was said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. For it is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. So, first of all, Chad, we know this is one of the 10 Commandments.
Yep.
So we're dealing with some biggie stuff here.
It is.
And I think there's so many things we could say about this. First of all, again, Jesus has been criticized by the religious leadership, pastors of his day, the bishops of his day, the Pharisees, Sadducees, high priests, and the scribes. They've criticized his disciples and even Jesus himself for not taking the law as seriously as they should. And you and I've talked about that when it comes to law, a lot of times people just want to look at what is the minimum way for me to skirt around this law. To not fully break it, maybe to bend it a little bit. Where is the line where, I don't break the law, but I come really close. We start talking about loopholes and things like that.
Yep.
And so Jesus is going to push the envelope to the point where really nobody can really be self-righteous. I think that's part of what he's doing here.
Definitely.
Because there are lots of people who could say, well, I've never committed adultery. I've never stolen anything. I've never broken the 10 Commandments. And Jesus is like, well, okay, so how about this? If you've ever lusted after a woman, then, or vice versa, it's just as bad as committing adultery. And you can almost see Jesus leveling the playing field here. I mean, honestly, who's going to escape that? Because he's not just talking about our outward actions, but again, he's talking about our inward actions, our intent. Yeah. And if we've ever looked at someone lustfully, if we've ever coveted anything that someone else has, he's saying, look, it's just as bad as if you broke one of the big 10. So Jesus is pushing the envelope here. Nobody can really stand in a place of judgment when it comes to Jesus. And I think that's part of what he's doing here. But I think the other thing that he's also doing here is trying to get us back to the intent. When you lust after someone, at least part of what you're doing is you're objectifying them. You've turned them to an object. And we see objects as things to be used.
Yep.
We're not called to use one another. We're called to love one another, bless one another, care for one another, forgive one another, treat each other as people who have been created in the image of God. When we look at other people, no matter what's going on, at minimum, everyone is created in the image of God. And that's not something to be used or abused or whatever. And so I think, again, we're going to the intent. there's some minimal things that we can follow in life and sit back and say, well, at least I never broke those rules. But what about what's going on inside of our heart? I mean, what if we are objectifying other people and we just want to use other people for our own pleasure or satisfaction or fulfillment, or to get ahead in life, stepping on people on our way up the corporate ladder, whatever it is. It's Jesus cares about what's inside just as much as what's on the outside.
Definitely.
And that's just a whole different ball game. That requires Christ to change our hearts, and that requires a lot of prayer. It requires a lot of support from people around us. And but again, that's what Jesus is really concerned about. We can go around and live our lives where at minimum we don't offend each other. But that's not good enough for Jesus. He wants to take the next step. He wants us to love one another, to care for one another. If you see a brother or sister in need, meet that need, reach out. So it's not just, unfortunately, when it comes to a lot of, when people think about Christians, a lot of them is like, well, we don't do this, and we don't do that, and we don't do this, and we don't do that. But what we really want is when people think about Christians, Christians do this.
Yeah.
They do that. They do that. It should be more about what we do and who we are than what we refrain from doing.
I don't want to just, because we can talk about the objectifying thing, and I've heard people, male and female, before say, well, you can read the menu, doesn't mean that that's the entree you get,
Right,
or things like that to justify objectifying. But I don't want to leave out this part about the eye and the hand, because to me, is it really your eye or your hand that makes you sin? I really think what he's talking about here is the same thing, and this is going to be the theme of what we come to every devotion. But it's the spirit behind what we do. Yeah. He's going to this extreme and saying if this body part causes you to sin, then you cut it off. This extreme thing is to say the intent behind how your actions are and it's about who you really are. At the end of the day, when the rubber hits the road and you're tired and all these things are happening to you, who are you really under that? When nobody else is seeing you, who are you? And I think
down to character and integrity.
Yeah, and I think this one really has to do with that character and integrity. Because when we talk about lusting, these are things that go on inside of our minds. Mm-hmm. No one else would ever really have to know. And so now we're getting into who you really are at the core of what you're doing. And if there's something that is pulling you away, then ultimately that's troublesome. And I think he goes to this extreme of what that means so that he can have that idea pushed.
And I have to be honest with you, it's whenever I read some of this in the Sermon on the Mount, it's just humbling. I mean, because it's like, okay, maybe I can walk around and say, well, at least I've never done that. But then when Jesus says stuff like this, I'm like, okay, yep, I'm included in all the other stuff. I cannot ever sit in a position of judgment and say, well, at least I've never done that.
Yeah.
It's like Jesus knocks, like I said, he levels the playing field. I just always feel humbled when I read these passages. I can't help it.
Well, and if this was serious, how many of us would be walking around without any limbs or eyes or ears or anything? So, I think it's the idea of this personal growth, this pursuit of what God wants us to be, and it's deep, strong. So,
yes, it is.
Well, we enjoyed our time together, and we hope that maybe you learned something.
Yep.
And if you got any points, or if you have anything you want to say, comment below. Let us know.
Please do.
Maybe you just want to say hi.
Maybe, yeah.
We like that.
We'll wave.
Yeah, we'll
wave emoji.
A little wave emoji.
We'll take it.
Well, I'll even wave, and I'll do a video of waving.
Awesome.
Now watch all these people comment hi, and I'll be waving all day. But we'd love to hear from you. We enjoy this time together. We hope that you enjoy this time together. It's been so good for us
It has been.
and personal growth, and that's why we're doing this. Is that it hopes that we could all grow together.
Yes.
So with that being said, we love you.
Yep.
We're praying for you, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Peace.